My inheritance, my money was thrown all over, for a lavish wedding of my sister, without my awareness. Now I will shut down all accounts and cancel every of their plans. Mom spent thousands of my inheritance on my sister's wedding without telling me, so I froze the account and stopped their plans. I'm going through a weird problem in life. Actually, it's not a problem, I'm in a dilemma. My mom and sister have been using me for years, and now they have crossed all limits of exploitation. I want to cut them off, but that would mean pushing them into poverty, which seems harsh to me. But I'm also done giving in to their demands. I'm 38, female, married with 2 kids, living in Ohio for the last 6 years after my wedding. I'm originally from Houston. My childhood was problematic due to my parents' divorce and my dad leaving us, accusing mom of infidelity. It remains disputed to date if it was just an accusation or if it was true because mom never remarried. I was 10, and my sister was 5 when my parents got separated. They say that my father suspected that my sister was not his, which led to the divorce. As alimony, he let mom keep the house in which we lived, and he moved out. My father paid for my education but not for my sister's. He didn't give child support money for her, and I don't know why mom never contested it. I guess that's the reason why everyone believed in dad's accusation of my sister not being his daughter. Dad was not in touch with us for most of my childhood. He occasionally showed up at my school to pay the school fee and brought some gifts for me. But when I went to high school, I contacted him, and since then, he has always been a part of my life. He even attended my wedding despite a lot of resistance from my mom. Over the years, I bonded better with my dad than with my mom. He even visited Ohio twice after I settled here. But this didn't last long. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and we lost him last year. Mom didn't like my closeness with my dad, and she got cold toward me. To add to her fury, Dad named me as his heir. He married many years after his divorce from Mom, but he didn't have any children in his second marriage. He used to say that he had just one daughter, and that was me. It goes without saying that Mom and my sister didn't like me because Dad loved me, and I got to inherit his $400,000 trust fund. It wasn't just about this inheritance. Right through childhood, Dad used to pay for my education, so I ended up studying at a better school, went to a better college than my sister, and overall led a better life because of the child support money. You see, I was 10 when they got divorced, and by that time, child support and my education money started coming in. I was 12, so my mother had little control over it. Education fees directly went to the school and college, respectively, from the child support money. Mom did spend a portion of it on my sister and other household stuff. Since I was not a stupid kid, my mom kept me happy so that I didn't complain about it to anyone. So, I won't say that my mom and sister were evil to me growing up, but they definitely didn't like me, and they both were pretty tight while I just existed there. Besides, I was smart, not just academically but clever as a child, not someone who could be treated as a doormat or walked over. I think that was also the reason that mom could never ill-treat me. My present-day problem is that $400,000 Dad left for me. Ever since my mom and sister got to know about this, they have been after me to borrow money for one thing or another. Actually, if you see, this is not the first time they have reached out to me financially. Ever since I started working, I've helped them. As my income grew, so did their needs. I don't owe them anything, but the only reason I help them is because they are family and they don't make as much money. Mom works as a cashier in a supermarket, and my sister is in sales at a boutique. They collectively don't earn half of what I earn, so I feel obliged to help them. We might not be so emotionally attached, but they have never been mean or evil to me. I hope you all get me, and I'm not confusing everyone with my feelings. A couple of months ago, Mom called me to say that she wanted to renovate our house. The walls, the ceilings, and the floor have all been damaged over the years. Ever since Dad moved out, the house has never been painted, and the wiring has never been repaired. The ceilings and the walls are crumbling from the corners. We never had enough money to maintain the house. She said that it was becoming difficult for them to live in that house during thunderstorms or rains. It feels like the house would crumble down. She said she visited the bank to ask for a loan, but the interest rate was just too high to bear. I understood what she was hinting at. She wanted the money from me to renovate the house. It was an awkward conversation because I knew what she wanted, but neither she nor I spoke about it directly. After that conversation, I started ignoring her calls. She doesn't call me a lot, it's never more than a monthly call, but this time she called me at least 3 to 4 times last month. Finally, when I answered her call, she said that it was becoming unsafe to live in that house because it was falling apart in bad weather. This time, she was upfront and asked me for the money. She promised to return it in installments. I asked her how much money she was expecting. She said at least $100,000. I lost my mind. I said I don't have that much money to lend. She hinted at the inheritance money. I was infuriated but didn't indulge in further conversation about the trust fund money. I said that $50,000 was the maximum I could lend. She agreed. Later, I realized that I was too impulsive to put my guard down and offer $50,000. I could have just ignored it, but now that I had told her, I had to lend her the money. I didn't have a very good feeling about lending such a huge amount of money. My husband suggested that I lend the money in installments and monitor the progress of the house before giving the next installments. I told my mom that I would be sending $50,000 in installments. I had an inactive account in Houston, so I activated it, transferred $110,000 into that account, and gave access to that account to Mom. She asked why I didn't transfer the money directly to her account. I gave some lame excuse for that. This was actually my husband's idea. Let's see how much this works. I hope she returns the money, though I'm not very hopeful. But let's see. Update 1. I cannot really put my finger on how my mom and sister tried to dupe me for easy money. It's been 2 months since I started lending out the money to my mom for the house renovation. I have given $20,000 until now, and I'm not going to give a penny after this. I knew they were nice to me only for my money, but I didn't imagine that they would lie to me this severely to get money out of my pocket. If they were upfront with me, this wouldn't have hurt as much. Of late, I got to know that my sister is getting married, not from my family, but from one of my school friends. My school friend's husband is a wedding planner, and my sister has been in touch with his agency to plan her grand wedding. Yeah, that's what they call the wedding to be. I think my sister didn't know that I'm friends with them. Of course, a wedding worth $50,000 is nothing less than grand. It hurts to know about your sister's wedding from others. Forget about the invitation, I wasn't even informed about it. I thought it was a close and intimate one with fewer people, but my friend told me that the guest list was around 100. It was heartbreaking that I couldn't even make it to that 100%. Feeling sad about it was one thing, but I was more bothered about the money. From where did she get the money to organize such a lavish wedding? One of the best venues in the town with unlimited food and drinks, top-notch decorations, and flowers. I checked the bank account where I was sending the money to my mom for her so-called renovation work. The bank account was empty. I called Mom to ask if the renovation work had started. She said yes, she had hired the renovation company, but the work was yet to begin. I couldn't take her lies. Until then, I didn't know for sure if they were actually using my money for her wedding. Yet, it disgusted me to think that they were spending bombs on her wedding while taking money from me for the renovation of the house. For a moment, I wanted to fly down to Houston and check for myself what was going on, but I realized it wasn't worth it. I called up my aunt, my father's sister, who lives a few blocks away from my mother's house. I asked her if she knew about my sister's wedding. She said yes, but she wasn't invited either. Mom is not fond of my father's side of the family, so this is understandable. She said that my sister's wedding had become the talk of the neighborhood. I mean, until a few years ago, their house was crumbling into dust without maintenance. They both were working their asses off to put food on their table, and now they have a sparkling new house and a grand wedding. I felt dizzy and disoriented hearing this. Mom said that the house was yet to be repaired, but my aunt said that it was sparkling with new paint. Then I realized that around 6 months back, Mom asked me for $20,000 for her knee transplant. I called up my mom asking her for the details of where she did the knee transplant. I lied that one of my friends needed the orthopedics details for her father's knee surgery. She fumbled for words and said she didn't remember the name. I asked her for the hospital or clinic details, but she struggled to say anything. She was caught off guard. She just pretended to have a network issue and hung up. When I called her again, her phone was switched off for a while and then went unanswered. I dropped her a text as well, but that remained unread for many days. I understood she was lying. The money I gave her for the transplant was used up for the house renovation, and the money she is taking for renovation is actually going toward my sister's fairy tale wedding. My aunt also told me that my sister's engagement was organized on the front lawn of my house, and they decorated the house with lights and wine overflowing. I felt like I was living in a cave because I had no clue that they were living such a lavish lifestyle while pretending to be poor in front of me to suck out money from my pocket. So next, what I did was ghost them. I stopped putting money in that account. When my mom called me, I didn't respond. I didn't respond to her texts. My sister, who never called me in all these years, called me, but I didn't respond to her as well. I'm done with them, and now I'm not going to entertain any of their lies and manipulation. It doesn't matter that I earn more than them or that my father left me an inheritance and didn't give them anything. It doesn't mean they can leech off me and use me with their false tactics. I have pledged to ruin the big day of my mom's princess. Update 2, I was so right about my mom. When I didn't respond to any of their outreach, Mom called my husband. I tell you, my husband is one hell of a spoil sport. I gave him the heads up not to entertain any of their calls and texts, but still, when my mom called him, he responded. She started crying and said that I had ghosted them. They needed the money for the renovation work, and the work was midway, and I had reneged on my promise. My husband blurted out the truth. Yes, he did that. I felt like smacking him over the head. He told her that I knew the truth, that she had been using me for money all this while, and that the money was actually going to my sister's wedding. That's why I had cut them off. I got so annoyed with this because I wanted to make them suffer for putting me through this fraud, but my husband ruined everything. He also told her that we knew she had lied about the knee transplant and used that money for house repairs. After that call, my mom bombarded my phone with apologies. She said that it was a misunderstanding. She had loaned the amount from someone for the house repair, and now she was repaying it with my money. Another BS story. After her constant calls and messages, I told her I was ready to talk to her only if she promised to tell me the truth. She said, "Okay." I called her, and she told me the whole truth. She said that my sister wanted a grand wedding, but they didn't have money to pull it off, so they decided to ask me for the money. It was my sister's idea to take the money from me using the excuse of house renovation. They knew I hadn't visited Houston in many years and wasn't in touch with anyone around, so there was no way I would have known that the house was already renovated. I asked her why they didn't tell the truth and just ask me for money directly for the wedding. She said my sister didn't want that. She said my sister didn't want to take a favor from me directly. Wow, do you see that? I said that I knew she repaired the house with the knee transplant money I gave. She got silent. I said I knew all the truth, so there was no point hiding it. She said that the house was crumbling, and my sister's in-laws wanted to visit, so they had to get it repaired quickly. In the moment of hurry, they couldn't come up with a better excuse to get the money from me, so she panicked and called me, saying that the doctor had asked her for an urgent knee transplant. I transferred the money within hours. Though I stood strong on the call, I was crying from within, realizing how my own mother was duping me for her own benefit. I understand they have money problems, but it doesn't give them the right to manipulate me and extort money from me using emotions. After I heard all the truth, I hung up the call and cried for hours. I don't remember the last time I cried so hard, maybe during my father's demise. I missed him so badly that day. I felt he was the only one who genuinely loved me and cared for me. After 2 days, I got a voicemail from Mom saying, "Now that you know, can you please send the remaining amount so that we can continue with the wedding preparations?" It disgusted me so much that I wanted to curse her out. If she wasn't my mother, how could she be so narcissistic? There was no remorse in her tone. All she wanted was money. They didn't ask me to come for the wedding, not even for formality's sake. Now, with the truth out, I felt so frustrated that I blocked both of them. I have also threatened my husband not to entertain their calls, and if this time he disobeys me, he would sleep outside on the porch in the cold night. I'm dead serious about this. I'm in constant touch with my aunt, and she told me that the wedding is next month. I didn't tell her the details about the money, but I know for sure that with each passing day, my mom and sister are struggling to put together the wedding they desired. Good for them. Update 3. I continued to get calls and voicemails from Mom and my sister until the day of the wedding, asking me for the money, but I stood firm on my ground and didn't budge. On the wedding day, the last voicemail my mom sent was that she was ashamed of me, was disowning me, and that I should never call her mom or visit her again. I was just so disheartened to hear that. I cried my heart out in front of my husband. I know people might call me evil and strong-headed for ruining my sister's wedding. My mom also accused me of that, calling me arrogant and self-centered, but she never thought about her lies. She deceived me all this while. I helped them because I felt obliged to. I considered them to be my family, but to them, I was nothing but a money-making machine. On the day of the wedding, I also got a call from my friend, whose husband was my sister's wedding planner. She told me that the wedding was most likely to get canceled because they were not paying the further installment of the wedding expenses. I asked her how much they had paid. She said, $20,000. I said, $20,000 is enough to put up a decent wedding. She said, yes, but my sister had placed the order for top-notch decorations, food, and the location, which itself cost around $20,000. She asked me if I was attending. I said no, I had some other work, so I couldn't attend. My friend knew that I was not so close to my mom and sister. To be honest, I was sulking from within because I was responsible for ruining my sister's wedding. For a moment, I thought to transfer the remaining amount to my friend and ask her to continue the wedding as per the plan. Then I remembered my mother's last voicemail, where she had disowned me. What's the point of doing so much for them when ultimately you get disowned? My actions might be harsh, but they were a reaction to their malicious triggers. I switched off my phone and went with my kids for a day out to stay distracted. The next day, my friend called me again. She was angry at my sister because the wedding brought down her husband's reputation in the market. On the day of the wedding, Mom and my sister pleaded with her husband to arrange for something bare minimum for the wedding and promised to pay $10,000 more. He somehow arranged for decent food and decoration because the advanced money of $20,000 was almost covered for the venue itself. However, the guests and the groom's family criticized the wedding arrangements badly, and my sister blamed everything on the wedding planner. She told everyone that the planner had messed up everything. My friend said her husband was so infuriated that he wanted to tell everyone the truth, but my mom pleaded with him not to spoil my sister's life. He was a good man, so he stayed silent, took the blame on himself, and let the wedding happen. On top of that, they haven't even paid the promised $10K yet. I felt so embarrassed to hear this about my family. I just stood silent and didn't say anything. My friend said she was not blaming me for anything but was just sharing her frustration with me as a friend. I felt bad that my family had to undergo such embarrassment, but I was also embarrassed by the way they had put all the blame on the wedding planner. After knowing all this, my husband said they got what they deserved and that I shouldn't worry too much about them. They brought this upon themselves because they tried to impress everyone by false means. I'm glad that I stay away from them and their tricks now. I feel that my mother's disownment was a blessing in disguise. I no longer have to deal with their lies and false tactics. Story 2. My husband finally admitted he's in love with my sister. After years of suspicion, my husband confessed to me yesterday that he is in love with my sister, in a drunken state. I don't know if I should take it seriously or if it's just a drunk thing. Yesterday, we had dinner with my sister and her husband, and we all had a lot to drink. After my sister and her husband left, my husband and I had sex. Neither of us were tired, so we continued drinking a bit of wine, listening to music in the background, and everything was amazing. I thought my husband was smiling and in a good mood. He is always like that when he is drunk. We talked about my sister and her husband, and he just suddenly said, "I'm so in love with your sister." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm so desperately in love with your sister. What I would do to taste her lips. She is brilliant." He looked dreamy and was still smiling. I said, "How drunk are you?" He said, "Probably plenty." I was drunk too, but still, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just sat silently there, and he too was in his own world with a smile etched on his face. He looked like he was a million miles away. I went to bed. This morning, all the memories came rushing back, and now that I'm not drunk, it hit me even more, what he said. I'm horrified, and my heart is in pieces. He hasn't mentioned anything and is acting normal, if a bit hungover. I don't know what to do now. He has always had a good relationship with my sister with mutual respect. Should I ignore his drunken comments? Was that just him being drunk? Should I wait for him to start talking? I'm not sure he even remembers what happened. About the sex we had, something was different. Even though I loved it and thought it was one of the best experiences of my life, he was different, passionate, tender, loving, and he kept saying, "I love you, you are brilliant." My sister has always been modest and tomboyish, but she has lost 25 kilograms and has been working out for a year. She wore a form-fitting red dress yesterday with red lips. She looked stunning, and we all complimented her on it. She was very happy about it. I don't know why I included this. I thought maybe it's relevant. Note, I'll skip the rest for brevity since the stories are long, but the commenter suggests confronting the husband when he's sober and evaluating the relationship dynamics. Couples therapy and open communication are often recommended in such scenarios to get clarity and decide on the next steps.